and stuff. Just wanted to show you this as well.
About me? I didn't even fight last night. Just Dana.
Do you have any updates about the eye of Tom Aspinall, and is there a rematch in the works?
Oh, Jesus. Don't let me talk about Tom Aspinall's eye. Apparently he's going in for a second surgery or just had it, and by surgery I mean injections. I have no idea. Get a quote from him. God forbid I say something about it. Go ahead.
Jeez.
How close did you think you were to
Here's your quote.
Catching strays, aren't I? Catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday morning.
The UFC's biggest problem just revealed itself, and it's not what you think. Tom Aspinall isn't chasing money or dodging fights. He's exposing a system that's willing to sacrifice fighters' entire futures for one more payday. And what I'm about to break down shows exactly why this could destroy the sport we love.
The reports are out. The UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. He said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones, what do we call it? Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight division had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are of MMA, definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
Right, and I'm not defending Tom because I'm a friend of his, and I don't really even talk to Tom very much. We're not even friends like that. I was always an admirer of Tom's work, and I believed in his potential. A lot of people are talking shit.
Let me destroy this casual talk about Aspinall having potential right now. Potential? Are you kidding me? This man is a certified destroyer, an absolute wrecking machine who's already proven he belongs at the top. Anyone claiming he's just chasing easy money fundamentally misunderstands what drives elite fighters. We're talking about a guy with devastating knockout power combined with fight IQ that most veterans never develop. Fighters at his level don't beg for opportunities. They demand them. And here's what most people miss completely. The real war isn't always inside the octagon. Sometimes the biggest battle is against the very system that's supposed to support these athletes. The UFC wants to control this situation. Then they better understand they're not dealing with some desperate prospect. They're facing a man who's ready to burn down their entire structure if they keep playing games.
You're allowed to say, whoa, never mind the fight, I can't see. And then the crowd turned on him. And then this is where a lot of people are saying that he's milking it. Okay, after the fight, they showed footage at the hospital and getting looked at by the doctors, and everyone was like, oh, you're milking it. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments on Twitter in a minute. The same kind of thing there, right? And maybe he was, right? Maybe there was a little truth to that, because I understand it, by the way, because he wants to show the world, hold on a minute, I'm the victim here. I'm the guy that got poked in the eye. I'm not the person out there that's committing the fouls. I had two.
But here's where this gets absolutely wild. You saw the crowd's reaction, right? The real fight happening here isn't about rankings or title shots. It's about a fighter refusing to be treated like a commodity, like some disposable piece on Dana White's chessboard. Think about this for a second. The moment you start acting helpless, trying desperately to control a narrative you've already lost control of, simply because you're not demanding your actual worth, that's not champion mentality. That's victim mentality. And Aspinall's situation, especially when we're talking about potentially walking away from the UFC after making such a massive impact, this is about a fighter's core refusing to be broken. This is about asserting dominance not just in fights, but in every negotiation, every contract discussion, every single interaction with the promotion.
Let's run it back. And I was dying to, because the fight was a close fight. And yeah, Tom's nose was busted up and Cyril Gane was looking really good. But as fans, is that not what we want? Do we not want to see exciting fights? Do we not want to see back and forth?
You know that feeling when you've been pushed to your absolute breaking point, when you've bled and suffered, but somehow you loved every second of that violent exchange? That's the addiction that hooks us as fans, because we're watching human beings discover their limits in real time. But listen carefully, because this is crucial. A tactical genius like Tom Aspinall calculates every single cost. He's not just seeing the immediate glory or the roar of 20,000 people chanting his name. True fighting intelligence isn't just about winning rounds or landing clean shots. It's about understanding the brutal mathematics of brain damage, of accumulated injuries, of what your body will feel like when you're 50 years old. So when a top-level contender, someone at the absolute peak of the sport, chooses to step back or threaten to quit, that's not weakness. That's often the smartest strategic move a warrior can make. He's seeing past the immediate gratification and thinking about the long-term consequences. And honestly, you should start thinking that way too.
We want to see legendary matchups as fans. We want to see good matchmaking. We want to see two guys that are the best in the world going toe-to-toe and pushing each other to the limit. And that's what we saw, right? It was a competitive match.
Deep down, you crave those legendary battles, don't you? You want to see fighters push themselves beyond what seems humanly possible, to witness greatness forged in real time. But that relentless pursuit of perfection leads directly to the hospital, to months of recovery, to a lifetime of broken pieces. What we're witnessing with Aspinall is a hunger for competition, but only on fair terms. Here's the thing most fans don't grasp. Real champions aren't just created by the system showing up and following orders. They're forged by having the opportunity to excel freely, to perform at their peak without artificial constraints or unfair disadvantages. That's why he's demanding true freedom in his career choices. You absolutely must understand this fundamental truth. The most dangerous opponent a fighter like Aspinall faces isn't waiting for him inside the cage. The most dangerous enemy is the cage itself, the system that wants to control and limit him.
Is what a lot of the public fan base has had to say. Now, granted, this is on Twitter, right? And we know Twitter is a bit of a cesspool of negativity and toxicity, right? I'm sure if we looked at the Instagram comments, it'd be a little more positive. But look at these guys. First of all, Grok, is this real? Come on, man. You really think the heavyweight champion of the world is out there? He's going to fake something like this? He's going to put some, like, I don't know, eye drops in his eyes and be playing a whole stunt? No, we all saw the eye pokes. We all saw the aftermath. We all saw the fallout. We all saw the appointments with the doctors. And now we're seeing 4 months later the fact that he's...
You remember that sickening sound, don't you? That bone-crushing impact that sent shockwaves through the arena. You witnessed those agonizing months of rehabilitation, the surgical procedures, the brutal physical therapy, and yet somehow, people still sit there spreading rumors about fake injuries and manufactured drama. This isn't some Hollywood production or scripted entertainment. This is a man's actual livelihood, his entire future hanging in the balance. We're talking about his skeletal structure being compromised, his career prospects being threatened, everything he's worked for being at risk. Not just from one fight, but from every single decision he makes moving forward, every opponent he faces, every training session where he pushes his already damaged body.
That he didn't even do. If anything, people should be more pissed at Cyril Gane. And then underneath that, Tommy's milking this shit, but hey, it is what it is. He wanted out of the UFC and got his chance. Now he'll sue for a few mil, and that will be that. And we can go on all day, we can go through it, but you get the general consensus, you know? I mean, fake, they said, right, I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys are talking out their arse. What do you mean he wanted out? This man has worked his way up. The man became the interim heavyweight champion of the world by stepping up on short notice and taking out Sergey Pavlovich.
Here's what really gets me fired up. Every single warrior who steps into that octagon, who spills their blood for your entertainment, only to be met with soul-crushing contempt when they try to protect their future or demand fair treatment. That toxic attitude is exactly why fighters like Tom Aspinall take the stands they do. It's not about being difficult or demanding. It's about refusing to accept injustice, about making an unwavering declaration that their worth cannot be diminished by promoters or fans who don't understand the real costs of this sport. When you've sacrificed everything for this game, When you've put your long-term health on the line repeatedly, you earn the right to have your voice heard and your concerns taken seriously.
And that's what he's done to the majority of his opponents. And yeah, you know, he had a couple of things that week with the DC and saying he was going to boxing and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight was looking like a really, really good one. Now, I was excited for the rematch, and there's still been no talk of a rematch. Because, of course, there hasn't. How can you have a rematch when one half of the matchup is still going through medical clearance, still trying to get his vision back? And in fact, if you read out the actual statement from the doctor, this was an Instagram post, and this is what was written, but it was like written in third person. I think Tom shared it or something like that. It says,
but the damage extends far beyond broken bones or torn ligaments. We're talking about fractured trust between fighters and the organizations that are supposed to protect them. When you dedicate your entire existence, your whole future, every ounce of your being to this sport, only to have parts of society dismiss your genuine suffering as theatrical performance, that creates a completely different kind of damage. That cuts deeper than any physical wound ever could. It shatters morale, breaks fighting spirit, and forces athletes to question everything they've believed about their chosen profession. You start wondering if it's truly worth sacrificing your body when your real pain gets dismissed as fake drama. That internal questioning, that spiritual struggle, defines the warriors who are still brave enough to step into the arena. Tom Aspinall knows this cost intimately because he's living it every single day. But do you, as a spectator, truly comprehend that level of sacrifice?
we've been working closely with him on his recovery. Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness, right? Now, let's talk about that. What is fighting fitness? Well, I know this very well. The benchmark for having fighting fitness.
So let's address the gossip circulating right now, shall we? The whispers suggesting Tom Aspinall wants to escape the UFC entirely. Let me be crystal clear about something. You could not be more wrong about his motivations. That narrative completely misunderstands the mindset of an elite predator. Look at his actual record, examine his actions under pressure. This is someone who stepped into immediate danger against terrifying opponents like Sergey Pavlovich and seized the interim championship in spectacular fashion. That's not the behavior of someone seeking to avoid competition. That's the unmistakable action of a hunter stalking his ultimate prey. Average fighters chase contracts and bigger paychecks, but champions of Aspinall's caliber are driven by something far more primal. An insatiable hunger for undisputed supremacy, for proving beyond any doubt that they're the best heavyweight on the planet. This isn't about fleeing the octagon in fear. It's about conquering it completely on his own terms.
2200 vision, all you gotta get is the top letter, the big old massive one, and then the two relatively big ones underneath that. If you can read those three letters, you have 2200 vision. I know this because I cheated the eye test many times to go on and have my legendary career, where I did end up in the Hall of Fame and with a few belts and stuff like that, right? So I know what I'm talking about. So to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness means he's...
After his highly publicized eye injury, let's be absolutely clear about the current situation. There are zero rematch discussions happening because this isn't some minor setback or negotiation tactic. The cage literally damaged this man's vision, potentially permanently. Medical clearance is still pending because his eyesight has been genuinely compromised in ways that could affect him for the rest of his life. This isn't clever positioning or contract leverage. This is the brutal cost being paid in real time. That's exactly why Tom Sergey is evaluating his future so carefully, considering paths where his long-term health is protected. There can be no compromise when the stakes involve permanent disability. This sport takes everything from those who enter, but smart fighters eventually recognize their limits. When the price isn't just a loss on your record, but a lifetime of impaired vision, the entire equation changes fundamentally. It stops being about championship glory and becomes about choosing your tomorrow before the sport irrevocably steals your future.
Talking about it online would say to me that the operation has been a success. So now it just is a matter of time before Tom to rest up, to heal from the surgery, and then come back and rematch Cyril Gane. But how long will that be? Because the one thing that you can't do, and I've said this in multiple other videos, you cannot rush this. When you rush back too soon, things can go wrong. When you operate on something, you weaken it. Anytime you go in there and drill or cut and slice and mess about with it, you weaken it. So you have to allow it a lot of time to restore, to heal.
The medical assessment revealed 2,200 inches of measurement, whatever that specific standard refers to in terms of his combat readiness. Don't let the clinical nature of that number fool you, because it represents far more than just a medical statistic. It's the visceral gauge of a fighter's soul being torn apart by impossible choices. That number represents the hidden cost driving warriors like Tom Aspinall to seek different paths forward. He's not just going through the motions of recovery. He's seeing the devastating real cost of remaining in the cage under these compromised conditions. This is what separates good fighters from great ones and great fighters from legends. Every contender craves the fight. Every champion thrives on competition. But the truly elite possess that razor-sharp awareness to recognize when stepping back serves the bigger picture. You haven't witnessed the beast of personal sacrifice until you've faced this kind of decision. Tom's not stopping entirely. He's implementing a championship-level strategy for his entire career and future.
Ignore all the negative comments on Twitter and Instagram and all these dickheads online, because they don't know what they're talking about at the end of the day. You'll be back at some point. I look forward to it. I look forward to the rematch with Cyril Gane, and then you'll get used to all this shit again. Everyone coming out the woodwork and talking crap. Anyway, what do you guys think about everything that I just said? What do you think about Tom's situation? Do you think they're going to bring in an interim champion? Is it going to be Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, something like that? I really don't know. But what do you think? As I say, always say, let me know in the comment section and subscribe.
Elite warriors fighting under extreme duress don't possess perfect vision or ideal conditions. What they do is see exactly what they need to see, sharpening their focus despite the chaos surrounding them. They battle through the haze, circumvent every obstacle, force themselves through pure determination to achieve victory, because that's the fundamental requirement for any true warrior in this unforgiving contest. So when Aspinall discusses his vision problems, when he talks about how he sees his future, you need to consider something deeper. Is he purely talking about physical eyesight, or is he speaking about his unshakable resolve and strategic thinking? This was never purely about having flawless physical vision. It's fundamentally about that incredible combat intelligence, that innate fighter's essence, that burning drive propelling you beyond every bodily limitation. But here's the brutal reality check. If you're seeking escape routes precisely when the test demands you dig deeper and focus more, then you're not a champion. You're just another contender who's forfeited the ultimate goal of true dominance.
Have when you're fighting the best people on the planet. So it's not that he was looking for a way out, it's that he got double poked in the eye. And now, as we say, here we are 4 months later, the man has had surgery. Not one, apparently he's had 2, right? And you can see the damage on the eyeballs, right? Anytime they mess with the eyes, I've had multiple eye surgeries, right? I lost my retina. You all know this story by now if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this shit, right? Yeah, I lost an eyeball. And
you spend countless hours, years even, perfecting every devastating technique, refining every fluid movement, and every single training session drains your strength and vital energy. Here's the critical danger that most people don't understand. If you return to competition too quickly before you're genuinely healed, you're not just risking one defeat. You're actively destroying your entire career, every aspiration you've ever held. Let's be unequivocally clear about something. This isn't recreational activity or casual sport. It's a fierce battle for professional existence, for legacy, for everything that defines you as an athlete. This is exactly why Tom Aspinall's desire for freedom burns so intensely. He's not just another fighter throwing punches for entertainment. He's a master strategist, a combat genius, and he knows with absolute certainty that he's not just avoiding one setback or injury. He's strategically protecting his entire reputation and future standing when circumstances force him to compete severely weakened. When you're not operating at your absolute best, you have to ask yourself a brutal question. Are you truly a champion asserting your will, or just a pawn being moved around on someone else's board? This isn't some meek request from Aspinall for better treatment or more money. This is a calculated power move from a man who understands his worth, his leverage, and his position at the absolute pinnacle of this sport. He's not begging for scraps or hoping for opportunities. He's demanding what he's earned through blood, sweat, and undeniable skill. And the UFC better recognize that they're not dealing with someone they can intimidate or manipulate. You must etch this truth into your mind and never forget it. You witnessed those injuries firsthand, didn't you? Those weren't random, unfortunate accidents or freak mishaps. That was the brutal nature of this sport manifesting itself, actively threatening to destroy a fighter's most essential tool, his vision. He possesses a warrior's indomitable spirit, absolutely, but what good is heart and determination if your primary weapon, your ability to see clearly, is permanently compromised? Do you honestly think that's him avoiding responsibility or seeking easy exits? That's a world-class athlete protecting his most valuable asset, his future, from the devastating reality of competing with impaired vision. In such grave situations, every human being possesses the right to seek protection, to make decisions that preserve their long-term well-being. The UFC must pay genuine attention when a fighter's entire career and health are at stake, not just when contract negotiations are happening. So there you have it. Tom Aspinall isn't running from fights or chasing easy money. He's exposing a system that treats elite athletes like disposable commodities, demanding fair treatment and long-term protection in a sport that can end careers in seconds. This isn't just about one fighter's contract dispute. This is about the future of fighter rights, about whether the UFC will adapt to support their athletes or continue exploiting them until they break. And honestly, I think we're watching a pivotal moment that could reshape how this entire industry operates. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think fighters like Aspinall are right to demand more control over their careers, or should they just shut up and fight whoever the promotion puts in front of them? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one. The reality is that Tom Aspinall's situation represents something much bigger than one fighter's career trajectory. This is a seismic shift happening across combat sports, where elite athletes are finally recognizing their true market value and refusing to accept the traditional power dynamics that have kept them subservient for decades. We're witnessing the birth of a new era where fighters understand they hold more leverage than promotions want them to realize. Think about this carefully. When Aspinall threatens to walk away from the UFC, he's not just making an empty gesture or throwing a tantrum. He's demonstrating that top-tier talent has options, that other organizations are willing to pay premium dollars for proven champions, and that the monopolistic stranglehold the UFC has maintained is finally starting to crack. This terrifies Dana White and the entire executive team, because their entire business model depends on fighters believing they have nowhere else to go. But here's what makes Aspinall's position absolutely bulletproof. Unlike fighters who make demands from a position of weakness, coming off losses or controversial decisions, he's negotiating from the ultimate position of strength. Interim heavyweight champion, devastating knockout power, undefeated in his current run, and most importantly, he's young enough that walking away doesn't mean retirement. It means leverage. It means the UFC loses a massive draw, while he potentially becomes the face of a competing organization. The medical concerns add another layer of complexity that most fans completely overlook. When a fighter's vision is compromised, we're not talking about fighting through a broken nose or a cut that needs stitches. We're discussing permanent neurological damage that could affect every aspect of his life outside the cage. His ability to drive, to read, to recognize faces, to live independently. These aren't risks that any rational person should be expected to accept just to satisfy bloodthirsty fans or greedy promoters. What's truly fascinating is how this exposes the UFC's fundamental hypocrisy. They market themselves as caring about fighter safety, implementing new drug testing protocols and concussion procedures, while simultaneously pressuring injured athletes to return before they're medically cleared. They want the appearance of responsibility without actually sacrificing any potential revenue. Aspinall is calling out this contradiction in the most public way possible. And let's address the elephant in the room that nobody wants to acknowledge. The heavyweight division has been an absolute mess for years, with John Jones playing games about who he'll fight, Francis Ngannou leaving the organization entirely, and a title picture that makes zero sense to hardcore fans. Aspinall represents the future of the division, the fighter who could actually restore credibility and excitement to heavyweight competition. Yet the UFC seems more interested in protecting aging stars and manufactured storylines than building around their most dynamic talent. This situation perfectly illustrates why fighter unions and collective bargaining have become inevitable. When individual athletes like Aspinall have to wage these battles alone, It creates unnecessary drama and uncertainty. But when the most marketable, most skilled fighters start demanding better treatment simultaneously, the entire power structure shifts overnight. The UFC has spent years crushing any hint of organized labor, but they can't stop individual superstars from recognizing their worth and acting accordingly.